Hello and welcome to Portugal. My name is Mark Whiteley and I'm a tour guide and I live in Tomar. Tomar is just over that hill there. This is where I live. This is central Portugal. Now, I've been thinking about this for a long time and it will probably be terrible, but I'm going to have a go anyway. I'm a tour guide, as I said, in Tomar, and I obviously am in the tourist industry. And I want to start a relationship with you. I want to teach you and show you the real Portugal. I moved here 5 years ago, nearly 6 years ago now. The story goes, we bought a motorhome. That's the first thing we did. We bought a motorhome at auction, unseen, and it changed our lives. This is my wife and I, Joanne. And we started travelling around the EU. We're British. I'm from a place called Nottingham, where Robin Hood is from. And we decided to start travelling. And then because of Brexit, which stopped our free movement within Europe, we decided that the best thing to do for our life and our mentality, because we didn't want to live in the United Kingdom at that specific time, was to become a resident of another country within the EU. The easiest place to become a resident back then, and probably still now, is Portugal. Didn't really know a lot about Portugal. We applied for, just before Brexit, we applied for €15 and received our residency. So I am a resident of Portugal and a citizen of the United Kingdom. And I live here. This is my house, my casa, and that's my well. I mean, I never had one of them in England. And it's full. We've had that much rain. So I thought to myself, what can I do? I used to be an actor, a playwright, a theatre producer, but I can't do that in Portugal because unfortunately they haven't taught them all English yet, and I haven't got enough time. So I needed to choose a profession that I could tell stories, that I could use my love of history, my love of communication. So I chose tour guide, and because I moved to Tomar, which is another long story. I'll tell you about that as we go along. This won't be the first video. I've got many up my sleeve. I decided to work in the tourist industry, or the travel industry, as I probably should call it. And then as I work in the travel industry, I read lots of travellers' questions on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all sorts of things. The people are coming. You're coming a long way. You're spending thousands and thousands of pounds. You need to ask these questions. How do I get from here to there? Where do I stay? Do I go here? Where's the best place to eat in Porto? All these things. And I can answer a lot of them. I really can answer a lot. Because before I settled here in beautiful Tomar, I travelled for 2 years in my motorhome. I'm embarrassed showing you this now. The first motorhome has been sold, but bear in mind we've had a lot of rain. So this is our second motorhome. Look at the mold. That's because it's rained too much. Anyway, so I'm going to go through the country. I'm going to start in Algarve. And I'm going to tell you about Algarve, where I lived for 2 years. I'm going to tell you about Lisbon and Porto and Alentejo and northern Portugal. I'm going to tell you as much as I know. And I'm going to tell it honestly, truthfully, to give you the best information so you can make the best choices about your vacation or your retirement or your whatever. You can ask questions underneath. I don't know whether I'll have time to answer them because I still am a tour guide and I have to take people around Tomar, and I have to record audio tours for other places in Tomar as well. But I will try. I'm really going to try my hardest. I really want you to love Portugal as much as I love Portugal. Anyway, let's get started. Let's go sit in the camper van and I'll tell you about Algarve. Welcome to my casa on wheels. This is inside my motorhome. There's the double bed there and the closets that my wife uses. I get to use one. Anyway, let's start at the very beginning. Like I said to you before, I've spent I spent years when we sold our house in Manchester in the UK. We packed everything, a lot of things into this. A lot of them went into a lockup in the UK, and then we just travelled around. We went everywhere. We wanted to find the perfect place for us to live in Portugal, and because we didn't know Portugal very well, we felt it very important to travel around. And I can give you the information that I saw with my own eyes. I'm the kind of guy that doesn't go straight to the main square. I like to walk around the outskirts. I like to go two streets back, have a look around, talk to the locals, get the lowdown on places, find out about the history. Why is that? Why is this? That's the kind of person I am. I like to walk. That's why I do walking tours, because I think that's the best way to see a city. Sorry, tuk-tuk drivers. Anywho, we're going to start with the Algarve. Algarve means the west. If you see the word L in Southern Europe, Spain or Portugal, Al means the. It's a Muslim word, the. So when you say, I'm going to the Algarve, you're essentially saying, I'm going to the west. It was the west of Andalusia. Andalusia is a big Moorish was a big Moorish population and stronghold for the people of Morocco for 700 years. So when you go to places like Granada, Seville, you will see it. You will see all the Moorish influences all the way throughout Andalusia. And that's why it's beautiful. In Algarve, not so much. I mean, when you go to places like Faro, you will see Muslim buildings. However, it's been influenced by Romans. It's been influenced by medieval all sorts of stuff, loads of battles and stuff like that. Essentially, Algarve it's the bottom of Portugal. It's nice and warm. It's where tourists go. I lived in a place called Lagos, which is in the west, but we're going to start in the east. In the east, the first place that you'll probably get to if you go to Algarve, because all the trains and all the buses and the planes go there, really important airport for Porto, is Faro. Faro is the capital of Algarve. And it is the commercial centre. It's where all the government for Algarve sits. And it's a lovely place. I mean, it's called the Gateway to Algarve. And it's a gateway. I've written a tour there. I lived there for a while in the motorhome. And I love it. It was built essentially, well, the Vikings were there. I mean, that's how old this place is. And there were, loads of prehistoric things going on. But essentially, it began with the Romans. The Romans and the Roman history in Portugal and Europe, they were blooming everywhere, the Romans. But essentially, so they came to Faro. Faro is a great place. It sits on a river. It's well protected. It's great climate. It's got good fishing. It's close to Spain. It's good. It's well protected. And they built the first castle, if you like, or the first building for human beings to live in and defend. And they were knocked out they left because the Roman Empire finished, and then along came the Moors. And the Moors, like I said, were there for 700 years, and they built upon what the Romans built. Now, if you're going to go to Algarve, there is a lot of history. There is essentially loads of history. This is Eastern Algarve now. And you've got loads of places around there, like Oleao, which is a lovely fishing village, got great restaurants, and a great place to walk around. The old part, for me, the new part is a bit too on a main road and a bit too busy. And talking of main roads, if you do look at the geography of Algarve, there is a motorway that goes from Faro right the way to the west of Algarve. That essentially is for tourism. People get off the plane, mainly English people, German people, Dutch people, French people. They fly into Faro. It is a massively busy airport, and they go for their holidays along Algarve in the summer months. And when I say the summer months, the season starts probably at Easter, and it goes all the way till Halloween, and then it gets cooler and rainy. But it's a lovely place. So Eastern Algarve, you've got Moncorapaccio, you've got Faro, you've got Lule, you've got all these places, and there's not a great deal of tourism going on there. There is tourism going there. I mean, I've written a tour guide for Faro, and there's lots to see and lots to do. It's called the Gateway. If you go to Faro city centre, within the city walls, as it were, there are loads of different gates, medieval gates. Well, there were Roman gates, then became medieval gates that would, secure, because they, in medieval times, they're trying to keep the Moors out. In Roman times, everyone's trying to keep everyone out and everyone's safe. So there's lots of little gates. So that, hence the gateway. It is the gateway, but it's also the gateway to Algarve because you're going from east to west. So as you go along Algarve, you come to the central bit, and the central bit is that bit you've seen. You must have seen the Bengal caves and all the touristy, and they are touristy. It's a very touristy area, that Albufeira. Now, Albufeira for me is like Benidorm. Not as bad as Benidorm. It's full of lots of people trying to get as drunk as quickly as possible. In fact, it's the only place I know in Portugal where there are laws now where you can't drink on the streets. That's how annoying local tourism is for local people, is that the police will fine you if you're drinking out in the street. Anywhere else in Portugal, it's completely accepted because most people aren't getting drunk, walking around half naked and then vomiting in the gutter. So for me, I would stay well clear of that. My favourite part of Algarve is the west. The west, for me, is the best. I mean, if you're coming all the way from the United States and you're planning to go to Algarve, think again. Honestly, think again, because you would have seen it in your country. It is essentially beaches, cliff tops, Atlantic Ocean, which I'm not saying it's not beautiful. It is beautiful. We've got Portuguese wine and food and all that going on. But if you're coming all this way, I think you could probably get that in your country as well. That's what I'm saying. You might as well go to places that show you something different, that are a culture change, not somewhere that you could get, I don't know, up the west coast of America, or even I've never been to the east coast of America. I've never been to the west coast of America. Anywho, so I think for me, the further west you get is the better. My favourite city, and I shouldn't be doing this really on a video. I shouldn't be saying my favourite this, my favourite that, but I'm going to, is Lagos, or you'll probably see it and go Lagos. That's how you say it. But in Portugal, anything with ending in s is sh. Okay, so it's Lagos. And Lagos is a very important historical town. It's a beautiful city. It's very compact, walkaboutable. It's got beaches. It's got medieval stuff going on. It's got a fort. It's got a port, and it was a very famous and a very important port during the years of discovery. I know this because I lived there for a long time. I lived just outside there in a place called Praia de Luz, and lots of military and naval things happened in and around there. That's where they set sail for Africa. Casablanca is opposite. I mean, it's a long way opposite, but those ships would sail out of Lagos harbour. They would turn left for the Mediterranean or turn right for Africa, or going into the Atlantic, down to the Canary Islands, Madeira, and all around there. So it's essentially a massive slave port. If you go to Lagos, you will see a slave market, a place where they used to literally sell African people in a market, and a terrible place it is, and a terrible, but that's history, hopefully, and it is behind us. So for me, Lagos, and the further west you get, the more rugged it gets and the less populated it becomes, because the beaches are few and far between. It's more cliff top walks. I mean, it is my favourite place. I did a lockdown there, so my dog and I, we walked miles and miles and miles across those cliff tops. And if you go inland a little bit there, you see there is beautiful, I wouldn't call them mountains, but they're high. And if you want a great view of Algarve right from the top, get yourself up there. I'll put some more details in links below where I'm speaking on a mouth stick. So the further west you go to Sagres, even, which is the most westerly point. It's probably not the most westerly point, but it's the furthest point along Algarve. And a guy called Henry the Navigator. You'll hear a lot about Henry the Navigator. I waxed lyrical about Henry the Navigator, who was a famous prince who started the age of discovery in Portugal. He's the guy really that you could say is responsible, that made Portugal into a great empire. He's the one that had the vision, and he's the one that discovered or started to use a caravel, which is an old seafaring boat that can beat the wind. That means it can sail into the wind. Before that, we had big galleons that were useless. Once the wind changed and the wind came towards you, you were absolutely knackered. You just had to sit there and wait for the wind to change to come behind you to push you forward. So he's the guy that spent the money and started sailing down the coast of Africa. So Lagos and Sagres. Sagres, historically, it was said to have where they trained navigators, but it's since been debunked, and they never trained anyone there. But they would have trained navigators and seafaring folk, aka sailors, in places like Lagos, because that's where they sailed out to. So I would imagine there were lots and lots of sailors back in the day. It's also, there's lots of pirate stories. They had a lot of problems with Barbary pirates. This is where it all started. The Barbary pirates are Moroccan pirates. They lived in a city on the other side, right in Africa, in Morocco. It's called Ceuta. Now, Ceuta is, ironically, I mean, I'm British, and the Brits own Gibraltar in Spain, and the Spanish have been trying to kick us out of Gibraltar for donkey's years. However, the Spanish, they own Ceuta, which is on Morocco. And I would imagine there are Moroccans, and the Africans have been trying to kick the Spanish out forever. Anyway, Ceuta was the home of the Barbary pirates. The Barbary pirates would sail up the Mediterranean and Atlantic coasts, so Spain and Portugal. They would pull up. They would whack some poor Spaniard or Portuguese on the back of the head, drag them into the boat, and either use them for a hostage, if they were from a good family, or they were taken back to Africa, to Morocco, and sell them into slavery. They inadvertently invented the modern, and when I say modern, I mean 500 years ago, modern slavery. The Portuguese, under the influence of Henry the Navigator, they took it to another level. I mean, completely took it to another level. They, as they sailed down Africa, finding places like the Canary Islands, Madeira, they need to populate these islands. So they took slaves from Africa and took them to first the Canaries and Madeira and Cape Verde, even further south near the equator. But eventually, after a bloke called Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue and discovered the Americas, the sailing ships would take slaves over to there. So it is a fascinating place to go, but not my favourite place to go. There are loads of amazing, I mean, especially, there's lots of good eating. There's loads of fish to be had, great fish restaurants, dishes like catapilana, which is like a paella, but like the Portuguese versions, mainly using potatoes instead of rice. Same thing, really. Loads of fish, tons and tons of fish, shellfish, all sorts of fish, every fish you can ever imagine, and also lots of beef as well. And I've said this, and I'll probably say this on every video that I do, is don't eat in a restaurant that has pictures of the menu. There, I've said it. Don't do it, because obviously it's a tourist restaurant. Go where the tourists go. Look, we have things, we have restaurants, maybe not so much in Algarve, because Algarve is built around tourism. I mean, literally, if you want to go Algarve, you're going to the biggest, apart from, Lisbon and Porto, but the two biggest tourist destinations, and probably the biggest earner in Portuguese tourist industry. It is absolutely, as you go along, I'll put a link to a video. When we were buying houses, I videoed lots of houses. I put a video up a couple of years ago, so it's a couple of years old. So the prices will be different, but it'll be similar. Of what you could buy for 200,000 euros in Algarve. Have a look what you can buy. I mean, it is the real estate over there, down there, is, and always probably will be, will hold its price and always be going up, because everyone wants to live there, because it's very nice. It's very English speaking. I mean, I went there at Christmas. My wife and I went for Christmas. We went to Tavira, another beautiful, that's in the east, just a bit further east of Faro. That's a lovely, actually. That is a lovely city to go to. I forgot all about that. Glad I told this story. And I went into, because I live in central Portugal, I speak quite a bit of Portuguese when I enter shops or restaurants or places, you know. And I spoke the same amount of Portuguese in Algarve, and straight away they just speak English to you. You know, everyone speaks English. So if that's the kind of Portugal you want to go to and want to visit, fill your boots. I mean, you've got loads of boat trips. You can go whale. You can go looking for whales. You can go looking for, not whales in England, UK, whales as in humpbacked and all that kind of stuff. You can go looking for, you can go fishing. You can go dolphin watching. You can do all sorts of things on a boat. Also, talking of Tavira and Eastern Algarve, because Europe is what's called the Schengen area. The Schengen means free. We could just move anywhere we like. Citizens can. I don't know what the rules is for residents, but it don't really bother me. I do go into Spain. You can actually just travel from Tavira to a place called Huelva in Spain. So if you wanted a day trip to Spain, which is very different to Portugal, I mean, don't come over to Portugal and start speaking Spanish. It doesn't work. I mean, these people, Portugal is a small country next to a massive country with two different languages, similar languages, but different languages. And the Portuguese are very proud and very little man. They have a little man syndrome. So they've always been punching above their weight with the Spanish. So don't come over here speaking Spanish and expect them to speak Spanish and go, oh, you've learnt the language, because you ain't learnt the language. You've learnt their enemy from a long time whence language, and come over expecting the smaller country to speak the enemy's language. You might as well speak English, because we've had a contract with them since 1480 or something. The British have been friends with the Portuguese and helped them out in many situations over the history of time. So anyway, from Tavira, you'll get a bus. It'll probably cost you, I don't know, €10. It'll be about an hour's drive. And Huelva, you see, you can get there. You've got the tapas. You've got lots of different things going on. You've also got a replica, you will like this if you're American, of the 3 ships that sailed, that Christopher Columbus sailed. I know there was the Santa Maria, the Nino, and the Nunar. I don't know what they're called, but you know what I mean. And there's 3 ships anyway, and you're allowed to, you pay your €5, and you're allowed to have a wander around them. And it is astounding to think that your great nation of the United States was discovered by these 3 little Spanish boats. However, let me just give you this as well. Christopher Columbus was married to a Portuguese woman, and he trained in Lisbon, and he worked in Lagos as well. So the Portuguese were the top of the sailing hierarchy back in the 15th century. Right. That's about your lot, really. Ways to get to Algarve. If you're flying into, say, Porto or Lisbon, train, really. I mean, from Porto to Lagos, it's probably 5-hour drive. Don't look at Portugal and think it's a small country. It might well be a small country, but the roads, the infrastructure is not, it's not massive. There's no, 4-lane super highways fast and stuff. Ain't like that at all. It is very different. Where else? Yes. So places like Lule, Faro, Tavira, all along the east is lovely, great food. It's quieter than the west. You go to the central part. That's the touristy hub, if you like. That's where all the hotels and spas and bars and all that's going on. And then the west, it gets slacker and slacker and slacker. But remember, in Europe, the further west you go, the wetter it will become, the greener it becomes, the more rugged it becomes. So there you are. There you have it. I'll try and put some other video links at the bottom. If you want to get in contact with me, you can at hardgraft.co.uk. I have an audio tour of Lagos, which includes piracy, it includes the slavery, It includes all the sailing, the discovery, or this blah blah blah, where to go and eat, stuff like that. The market. I also do a tour of Faro, which is very different because on the Faro, when we start with Vikings. We also talk about the earthquake, 1755 earthquake. The earthquake wasn't as bad for Algarve, but the tsunami, because it is very low lying Faro, but Algarve in general really is low lying. So it was literally destroyed, really, a tsunami. Can you imagine? I can't imagine it. Right, that's me for today. Don't forget, it's called I'm going to Andalusia, not Andalusia, I'm going to Algarve, not the Algarve, make it look clever, and Portuguese will go, oh, he knows what he's talking about. Also, remember, if you're coming over, learn a few Portuguese words, things like hello, bom dia, boa tarde, good afternoon. A one that I love to teach people is tem. So if you go to a shop and you want to know, have you got? That's all it means. So all you got to learn is the word, I don't know, let's say wine, vinho tinto, red wine. So you go tem, vinho tinto. Easy, you see. And that gets you started in speaking a little bit of Portuguese and gives you a bit of kudos when you walk into a shop. Obrigado. Thank you. Por favor, please. Just learn a few key phrases and don't expect, I'm English or American and you're going to speak my language. Let's not do that, eh? Let's not do that. Okay, I'm going. Hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know, like, subscribe, share it with your friends. I am going to do, the one I'm going to do is I'm going to do Lisbon. That's Lisbon. Lisbon is 70 miles from where I live, just down there, just down that road there. I'm going to go away and edit this now and put some nice little bits of photographs in them for you to look at. See if you're looking at me. Good day. My day you go.